So this is your Saba speaking at the Tikkun Elevator Kolo. This is I guess I got to figure out a phrase for my Saba, Saba the Tikkun Elevator Kolo. Yeah, I've gotten older, and I guess I could be called Saba. My grandchildren call me Saba, and a lot of people in the town call me Saba. There's have an unusual phenomenon here in Miami, not Miami Beach. I'm in Boca Raton, and there's a tremendous influx of young people with married couples and children. It's just a beautiful thing to see. What's going on here. It's probably going to grow, and there's Boca's pretty big in landmass, and so we have to find places that all these different communities are developing. Now, one of the things that we're missing, especially in the world of the Ashkenaz, is nobody, even though the Vilna Gaon, who, let's say theoretically is the genius of Ashkenaz Judaism, who was a great Makubal, and has been quoted as saying that the study of the Zohar will bring the Mashiach. So we're working in the Zohar, we're working in the RASHASH, we're working in the Ari. We're trying to understand the words, really, of what's going on. So here we are, the Siddur Rechovot Hanahar, which is Sephardi. And we're going to give some concepts. Now, I know that most people, especially the ones that listen in English to my shiurim, are Ashkenaz. Or at least they have an Ashkenaz, a Litvish background, learned in the Litvish yeshivas, which unfortunately have no sod in them at all. And the people who are the great rabbis, they don't know it. Some do, because it's possible. So here we are. I'm speaking to a congregation of listeners, of people who are going to listen that have little or no background. So question is that, well, who am I and what am I doing here? Well, I have a need to learn. And most people at the level that I'm at, I don't run into a lot of people that I could learn with. Even if people have been learning Kabbalah for a long time, turns out that there's lots of different ways in the Kabbalah. Like, for example, we have Rechovot Hanahar, which is Sephardi on the Rashash. But we have Nekudas HaKesef, which is Nusach Sfard. And they're each differing very slightly, actually. In the main parts, they don't differ too much. But in the beginnings, in the openings, in different places, they do have different ideas. And one of the ideas that nobody knows about is the Ari explaining how it is that the world was created. He goes all the way back. He starts you out in a way that explains what is male and female a little bit, for the concept of the line and the circle. So the line represents a straight line, which is a movement from the top to the bottom, let's say so to speak. And that's the male aspect. But there's also the concept of the circle. The circle is the concept of the cycle. So here we are living in a world which is a circle. It's a ball. And we're surrounded by planets. They're all orbiting us in a circular way. And all of this is a creation of the Almighty. We are living in the world which the Kabbalists call the Olam HaUfanim, the world of wheels. Just imagine our world without wheels. What would it be like? How would you actually transport anything? So the concept of the wheel is endemic to the world. And as a result of that, we come over and we see that this relates to the circles that we were talking about at the beginning. And this is the female aspect. So the male aspect is a straight line, and the female aspect is a circle. And as these develop, within them is the light of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. In its way, it represents the line, because the line, without a line, you have no world, no universe. The line represents the shefa, or the pouring of values into. It's the energy that makes things be. So let's see what the things that are appear in a circle. I don't know if that's one good explanation, but one of the things we try to doing here at the Tikkun Elevator Kolo is to introduce these concepts, to introduce them, because so many people don't know anything about the Ari or how the world started. And look at the Jewish world in terms of our brains. So maybe sometimes in 50 years, 100 years, 10 years, 3 years, I don't know what, after I'm gone, You get to be a Saba, you get to realize that, a lot of your life is behind you. So I'm going to try to say this. Now, we have a situation where in the Parshas, V'yishlach, at the end of the Parsha, it mentions the kings that ruled in the Arabs, Edom, before there was a king in Israel. This is actually the basis of a very deep, what's the right word? Very deep understanding of how the world was created. And eventually Hashem brought us into what was called the Olam HaKudim. So learn the Rav, and you'll be able to get a Rav as the Uriah Kodesh. You'll get a good idea what is going on in the world of Akudim. Then there's the word of Nekudim. The world of Nekudim is really an attempt to actually bring the spheros of Zer Anpin into a way to transport that light into us. And there are 7 spheros. Actually, there's 10. And at this point, they're called Nekudim. So because they're smaller than a regular sphera, their what would you say? Their physicality is smaller. So they're very small, and they're unable to to hold the light of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. So here we have a concept that the light of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu is extremely important to be able for all life. So they broke. There were 7 kings that are mentioned over there in Parshas V'yishlach. And here are they. They're right here. Here's the names of the kings. And we're going to read this a little bit more. But what he wants to tell you, and something that we've been talking about before, is that in spirituality, in the spiritual world, in the world of the origins of reality, there are worlds inside of worlds, inside of worlds, inside of worlds. And in the case of the kings, you have the same thing. And here are the names of the kings. One is Bela, one is Yovav, one is Husham, one is Hadar ben Badad. Next one is called Simla, Shaol, and then he says as Shaol. So this is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Should be 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 kings. Which one am I missing? Okay, the one that's missing is the Baal Hanan. So we'll see exactly. I'm not sure exactly how he says it, because he wants to say like this: there are 6 days of the week. Then he says this is Yom Aleph down through Yom Vav, which is Friday. Then he has one for Rosh Chodesh. Now, I'm no expert here, so I don't want anybody to think that I'm preaching here and that I know all of this. I don't. What I'm trying to do is learn it. I'm inviting you to learn it along with me. So the language here is that we have 7 kings who died, and we'll see what's going on over there. So he says, this is how we're going to start. V'yomer har karbanos. Now we've gotten to a place, we've moved on, and now we're going to begin to say the karbanos. And we see, like in a lot of places, they really skip through the karbanos as if they're not important. I want to make the statement here that karbanos are extremely important. And there were so many different ways of approaching Torah Judaism, but this is a fundamental way right here to understand the power of the karbanos. When you say the karbanos, he writes, V'yakavin ki ha-hechelos. The question is what does he mean by hechelos? All of the karbanos that come that elevate or become elevated together with the offerings. Heim ha-kelim kitzonim. These are the kelim kitzonim of the Zion Malachim, of the 7 Malachim that died. To call Echad Me Zion Malachim, and each one of them has all 7 in it. And that's what it's trying to get at, like we had said in other places, that Naranchi, which refers to Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chai, Yechida, that each one of them has the neurology of their own. You can imagine how they could go on, but they look exactly the same, except they're further away from the source. So what happened is that the light came in, all the lights of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu came into the first Kli, the Melech Rishon, which is called, his name was Bela. Inside of Bela, there's a Bela de Bela, a Yoba de Bela, a Husham de Bela, a Hadar ben Bada de Bela, but the Simla de Bela, the Shol de Bela, and the Baal Hanan de Bela. That's the first one. Now look and see what the second one is going to be the same. It's of Yovav. And once again, you have the Yovav, the Bela, Yovav, you have the Bela, the Yovav, the Yovav the Hushim, the Hadar ben Badad. I keep messing this one up, I'm sorry. The Simla, the Shul, the Bela Hanan. So these are all the Zayim Malachim who died. It's a very large section in Shara Nekudim in the Eitz Chaim. So he says Yom Gimel is going to be the Melech Gimel, the third king, which is going to be Husham. There's a Bela the Husham, a Yovav the Husham, a Husham the Husham, a Hadad ben Badad the Husham, the Husham the Simla, or I think it's the other way, the Simla, the Hushel, the Shul, the Bela Hanan. Now we could go through these. I'm getting a little tired here. Let's go down to the sixth one. The sixth king is called Shaul. So he says a Shaul, there's a Bela Shaul, there's a Shaul the Bela, a Shul the Yovev, a Shul the Husham, Shul the Hadad ben Badad, Shul the Simla, and a Shul, let me see, and a Shul the Simla, and a Shul the Baal Hanan. On Rosh Chodesh, he says, "Yikaven ki haim the call Zayim Malachim, the Zayim Malachim the Bela." So we have all of the seven inside of all of the seven: the Bela, Yovav, Husham, Hadad ben Badad, Simla, Shaul, Ubal Hanan, which is the seventh one. The Arich, Yom Rishon, the Rosh Chodesh. This is all coming from the parts of called Arich. The Yom Echad, the Rosh Chodesh, Bepinimius, Yom Beis, the Rosh Chodesh, Bechitzonius. Okay, so we have had the concept of Pinimius and Chitzonius before, and that's what he says. So now we'll look a little bit more, because we're getting ready really to start into the davening, and we see some of the ideas. We're going to get to the Akeda soon. And we'll go some other ideas. Now, I'm a person, obviously, who I'm older, so I don't run off to work every morning. If I did, if I had to do that, I guess I could try. But it's also, I don't have the physical strength I had before. So he says, L'hamshech or Malchus, to extend the light of Malchus, the Chochmah, the Ak. Now here you're going, you have to go the Chochmah, the Ak. Ak is the first veil covering over the light of the Ein Sof. But it is in the form, as everything is as explained by the Rav, by the Uriah Kodesh, that everything has everything else in it. So in other words, what I really wanted to say was that everything is in the form of a man. So if we looked at a human being, and in his head he's going to have a Chochmah Bina and Das, and in his body he's going to have a Chesed Gevurah Tiferes, and that's a Chod Yesod. And this is the template that began even before there was any formation of what we could call kind of a reality that we could put our hands on in the world of Adam Kadmon. That's what Ak is. Im Chelik Orha Ein Sof, and also there's a portion of the Ein Sof Maluvish Ba that is inside of Ak. And to pass it down or keep it moving, because the idea is to bring the light of the Ein Sof into the lower worlds. We are at the lower worlds. This is the world of balls. This is the world of cycles. This is the world of circles. to somehow find that light, which is a straight line and hidden inside of this first veil, which is called Adam Kadmon. So you bring this out. How do you do this? Through the Malchios of a sphera, which is the left, let's say called the left brain of Zeranpin, the left brain of Ak, and then also the left brain of Zeranpin of Ak. So Zeranpin would be the body of Ak. So you would be taking from the Bina. The Bina is really the mother from which everything comes out. And to clothe it in the bottom part of Ak, which is its Malchus. And then what happens is that the Malchus is moving. Because the idea of the Ein Sof, and remember we've said before that in Kabbalah there is really no up and down, because up and down could be the same thing as inside out. So what we're talking about is the very most inside precious part of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu that's just masked by this world, which in the form of which he says, if you could see it, it wouldn't look like the outline of a man. It would look like, we're going to see it tomorrow, probably. And we're going to get an idea what it's talking about. At any rate, he says, Malchus, because they're really letters in the Olam, which is called Atzilus. V'yaredis ha-Malchus hanaz im ha-or hanaz, that is the Malchus that we're talking about, together with the light that's in it, Amaluvesh ba, that's inside of it. V'over derech Malchios, it goes through the Malchios of out of Ak. There's another world that surrounds Ak, the hidden world that surrounds Adam Kadmon, which is called Atzilus. In Atzilus, we could see the letters. We could understand the letters, which we're going to see it again. We're going to see it soon. Malchios the Kochbad, the Malchios of the Keser Chochbabin and Das Atzilus. Lameir Mamshech, and then it shines, and it causes to extend down, to stream down the Fashos Veruchos. That's the Ner. Then the Ramchi, they call parts of Partsufi Atzilus. Now, the question is, if there is a whole Naranchi, that's a Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chayin, Yechida, why did he pick on, or why did he point out the two lower parts of it, which is the Nefesh and the Nafsha and the Fashos, Veruchos, because this is the place which will become the template for creation, which is what later on we'll call Zachar V'Nuk, male and female. So he said, then the Ramki, the called parts of Partsufi Atzilus, of all the Partsufim of Atzilus. And let's suppose that in Atzilus there are 10 Partsufim, like the 10 Spheros. There are 10 Spheros in Atzilus, and each one of them is a Partsuf. Vazmis Davgim Gar Uvok the Gar de Yasos. So what happens then? When you're bringing all this into Olam Atzilus, the first three, which are the Chabad, Chachma Bina Das, and the 6 parts of the body of Atzilus, and he says this is the Gar Uvak the Gar. So now let's see what the RASHASH is saying here. He says that in the Gimel Rishonis, again, it's either, we could say it is either Keser Chachma Bina, or we could say it's Chachma Bina Das. It depends on our perspective, what we're talking about. Let's see what he says. But he says that within the Gar itself, we're trying to unpack these ideas, is also a Gar and a Vok. There's a whole, in the Gar is like a Partsuf, and it has 10 Spheros, which would be the first 3 and the next 7. The next 6, he says 6, but it also includes the 7th. And of where's it coming from? It's coming from Yisrael Sabbat Vuna, in the Olam Atzilus, and it causes the Mochim, which are called, we call this Asmab. It's Av, Sag, Mahu, Ben. These are combinations of the spelling out. If you spell out the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, there are 4 different ways the Rav tells us that we can understand them. The Besochim, the Levashim, Oros Hanal, and inside of them, we see that are in it those lights. The Shnei Partsufi, Chagad V'Nahi, the Kitzonius, the Penimius, the Zav. Now let me just finish this. I got a call here. I got to pick it up. Mamshichim mochim, and they cause these mochim, which are called, I'm calling it by the acronym ASMAB, Absag Mahuben, that are clothed, they have within them clothed lights that we mentioned above, and they go to the Shnei Partsufim, again, the parts of his 10 spheros. One parts of his called Chagat, and the other parts of Nai. But those particular Partsufim also refer to the lights that were in them, which is in Chagat is the light of Ruach, and in Nai is the light of Nefesh. The Chitzonius, the Penimius, the Zayim, the Zun. It goes to the outside part of the Penimius of Zun. Let me take a break here. I'll be right back. So we continue on. We'll go back over as the Yasos. So it's really amazing that, you have here, the Rashash looks at this and he says, look, you have 10 spheros. But then you could divide them up into 2 different parts. You could have the Vok. The Vok also includes Malchus. So the Vok is Vav Kitzvais, which is Chesed through Yesod. And the Gar, which is probably Chabad, Chochmah Bina Das. You have a yichud between them, because each one of them, just taking them by themselves, has 10 spheros, so they were parts of Partsufim, of Yasos. Yasos of Itzilus. What is Yasos of Itzilus? This is let's say, the eyedropper that lets the drop out. In other words, it goes into Zer Anpin and brings the Mochim with it and builds Zer Anpin. It causes to pour out the mamshikim, or extends out the mochim ubasochim maluvashim ha'oros hanaz, and inside of those mochim, and that's we understand the mochim, which are of sag mahu ben, they actually are coverings over the light of the Ein Sof. The Shnei Partsufim Chagat Benai, because everything is going to the Chagat Benai, the Chagat Benai, which is a rule in Kabbalah, is that Zer Anpin is a katan, or sometimes he's called a eunuch. So Zer Anpin has only 6 spheros to begin with. The whole idea is to build him into 10 spheros, but that only happens as a result of the entrance of Yisrael Sabat Abuna into Zer Anpin, because it carries these mochim that he's talking about, the Chitzonius, the Penimius, the Zun. And it's going to the outside of the inside of Zun. Now that particular one, I'm not sure that I really understand what I can read it, the outside of the inside of Zun. So let's go. So then these 2 partsufim, which he had said previously was the Gar and the Vok, and as a result, what happens when there's a yichud, it causes light to continue on. It causes new light, a light that is able to penetrate into the lower worlds. And it's these mochim with the shefa that's in them, and which was represented by them, im ha'or ha'ein sof, together with the light of the Ein Sof, hamalubash b'malchios, which is clothed inside of the very bottom part, which is the malchios, the partsufi ak, the partsufim of the most inner light, which is the light of Adam Kadmon, the partsufi kachba deser anpen, and from there also into all of the partsufim of the Keser Chochba Bina Das. Those are 4 different partsufim, and into Zer Anpin, the Chatzilus, Mitzlavshim Gam b'Malchus, the Chatzilus, and they're also clothed inside of the Malchus, the Betzilus. So Betzilus is the world of formation. Now just let me give you a little flash that's coming up here. He's going to show you what Betzilus looks like. And if you're confused because it's just a bunch of letters, then we have to understand that letters are extremely important in terms of building reality. So let's go on. So he said, V'az, then, Yori the Malchus im Kola Oras Hanas, Now comes down the Malchus with all the lights that he has in it. Over derech Malchus the Kachbad v'Zah the Bria, and they go through the Malchus of all of these partsufin, the parts of Keser, Choch, Bina, and Das, individually. And then from Das it goes to the Zer Anpin. But now you're no longer in Etzilos, you're in a place which is more physical called Bria. A mislavesh gam b'malchus the Bria, and it winds up going all the way down into the Malchus of Bria. Umeir mamshech naran, and it says, and understand that Bria represents neshama. It's an area that is higher than Zer Anpin and Malchus. It's a dimension higher. Umeir, and it shines. Mamshech naran, the neshama, ruach, and nefesh of the Naranki, the parts of Naranki is another word for all of the lights of the Ein Sof, the Partsufi Habriya, into all of the Partsufim Habriya. V'yored v'over derek Kachbad v'zer Anpin the Yitzira, and then they keep going down. They go down into the Keser Chochma Bin the Das, those Partsufim v'zer Anpin the Yitzira. A mislavish gam b'malchus the Yitzira, and they get closed also in the Malchus of Yitzira. Umeir mamshech narantch, and it causes, as once it gets the Yitzira, it causes the nefesh ruach neshama chaya of the narantki of lights, the partsufi Yitzira. The yared of the nimshach hashefa then comes further down. It continues to go down. This is how this light works. It's a light inside of lights. V'hamochim v'ha'aros hanaz, anazal, they're in Nizkar Lamala. And he says that also the lights and so on and so forth, and the mochin that covered over the oros, the Keser Choch Bebina, Shehem Atik. So he says, if you want to know, I'll tell you another words for this. Keser is Atik. Where is it? Chachma is Eric Anpin. Abba ve'ima are represented by Bina. For Abba ve'ima that Silos, and all of the Abba that Silos, the Pinimius, the Asiya, from the inside of Asiya, that Silos. The Asiya Tachton Shuhu Malchus, the Kachbad, which is the Malchus in the lower Asiya, which is all the Malchus of all the Partsufim. Thus, Mizdavgim HaPartsufim now, and a Yichud as a result of that takes place. And it causes the flow down. The mochin, remember the mochin cover over the lights. V'chashefa, that accompanies it, hanaz. The zunda tzilos into the zun, that is the nefesh ruach of tzilos. The benimius, the asiya of the inside of olam asiya. We're in olam asiya. V'hamochim v'chashefa hanaz, and then the mochim and the shefa that comes along with it. Nikra kisos v'oros hanaz. They're called ksus. I guess we'll sell ksus coverings, like blankets coverings. V'ha'oros hanaz, and the lights that we mentioned up above. Im ha'or ha'ein sof, together with the or of the ein sof within inside of them. Amispashtim and mamshich and the randche. He says, which spread, mispashtim me'irim, and shine, causes the light of the incomplete Naranki, the Karpatsufi Asiya. So ultimately what we want to do is we want to begin and bring all of the lights into our world. And one of the ways that we do this is by saying, not one of the ways, but I mean, this is our function. Try to bring the light of the Ein Sof in. The Kavan, the Zavad, Kachbad, the Atik Yomim, the Eric Anpin, the Abba Ve'ima, the Zun, and you have the capacity to make that between all of these different parts of it, they will make Yehudim. In other words, they will come into line for those opposites, things that do not go together, will all come together, the Asiya that Silos of the Asiya that Silos. In other words, remember that in all of the worlds, which are Atsilos, Bria, called Abia, Yetzira, and Asiya, all of them have the same thing. They have an Atzilus, a Bria, a Yetzira, and a Asiya within each one of the Atzilus, Bria, etc. The Atzilus, Hamaluvasha, the parts of Shegnegda Basiya, which is also clothed now in the parts of that opposite in the world of Asiya. And he shows you the complete Yichud. And it says this is a Yichud Panimi. So trying to understand his concepts of Panemios and Chitzonius, not so easy, but this is a concept where the Yud K Vav K is on the inside. So skipping every letter, it would be Aleph K Yud K Vav K. So that is called a Shalav, or this is the picture of the Yichud. Now we're going to bring the Narantchi, the Nechi, the Nefesh, the Narantchi, which is the Narantchi of each one of the Nefesh, Chai, Yechida, the Nefesh. So it's going to bring the top lights, the lights associated with the light, which is called Nefesh, which is the lower light, Mochim, Panimim, and Makifim, two different types of Mochim, ones that go inside that cover the Oros, and one on the outside that cover the Oros, shining in. The Kalim Kitzonim Dezunta, the outer Kalim Dezumim, called Echad of the kings, or Echad of the Partzufim Azun. The Bara Beruri Kalim, in order to be, what's the purpose of this? The purpose of this is to bring up the lost light. The light is actually not lost. It's really the Kalim that hold the light to bring them up. The Bara Beruri Kalim Kitzonim Kachbad, the Malachim, to call Echad Behem. Valosam. Once you get to that place, then you want to lift them up. You want to raise them up. In Panemius Ma'asiyah, the Nefesh Shalom, and the Panemius of Asiyah, and the Nefesh that goes along with Asiyah, because Nefesh is in Asiyah. V'lakalo v'la'alos, and to join them together, and to elevate the Mohem. Hitzonius Asiyah, the outside of Asiyah. Panemius, the Asiyah, Panemium, Makifim, these are two, the Panemium and Makifim refers to two different kinds of light, both the light that goes into the parts of it, the light that surrounds it and shines on it. Brings that up to the Yetzira, Derech Hechel Zer Anpin, Hechel Ebe Zer Anpin, through the different spheros of Zer Anpin, Dasiya, Kanaz, to call Echad Bechem, Ba'alosim, Hechel Hechel, the Yetzira, the Zer Ayidech HaKarbanos, and all of this happens. When you say the Kabbanos, we don't have Kabbanos anymore, but this is what actually happens when you say them, and this is why Kabbanos should not be skipped. This is Baruch Fleischman, your Saba, at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel.